Hello, thank you for tuning in to AWANI Review. My name is Cynthia. In this episode, we will be taking a closer look at the development of solar energy and the solar market in Malaysia. To talk about that, joining me today is Thang Chee Keong. He is the CEO of Plus Xnergy, a solar company in Malaysia. Thank you, Chee Keong, so much for making time to do this interview.
Thank you, Cynthia.
It is quite a great opportunity or time to revisit this topic. I spoke with your colleague Chuan Zhen some time back, but since then, we have seen a greater urgency, especially from the government, to focus on clean energy, which was underscored in the 12 Malaysia plan. So Malaysia has big ambitions to achieve net zero carbon emission by as early as 2050. And that's why we're talking about this today, because solar energy is such a crucial part of clean energy. If I may start with that, Chee Keong, this announcement by the government, what is the impact of this new development on the solar market and Malaysian businesses at large?
Yeah, definitely the announcement by the government is bring a lot of excitement to the market when we're talking about, right, when you look into the 12 Malaysia plan, especially the highlights in the chapter 8 and chapter 9 in the 12 Malaysia plan. So the government, they're talking about the focus on the reduction on the greenhouse gas emission up to 45%, right, by 2030. And also there's a lot of plan, like looking into giving more solar or more renewable energy in the market, such as the floating solar or in the rooftop solar. And also the government are looking into providing more so-called the encouragement or incentive, right, to the industry to adopt solar to achieve the goal of carbon neutral by 2050.
How can you tell us about this initiatives that has been announced? Do you think those initiatives are in the right direction to boost the ecosystem of the solar industry?
Definitely is a right directions on the initiative by the governments. If you look at globally, country within the Southeast Asia region like Vietnam, right, they have been adopting renewable energy, especially in solar. Right, if you look into the past few years, have been so-called grow very fast and large per se. So back into Malaysia, in the past, the government have put up the initiative, right, in somewhere back into 2011 on the Green Energy or Renewable Energy Act, right, during that time for the FIT Feed-in Tariff Program. We see the government initiative, but from there, there's a continuity. After the Feed-in Tariff Program for solar, then there's come with the net energy metering, as well as for the large-scale solar, so-called the bidding. Right, we have seen 4 phases of large-scale solar bidding brought out by the government. Phase 1, 2, 3, and 4. Yeah. So it definitely is a direction from the governments to encourage more adoption on the renewable energies.
I do definitely want to talk about NEM Nova, and LSS we have just mentioned, and also, of course, Vietnam is the leading solar player in the region. We'll get to that a bit later. So I want to pick your point about NEM Nova, because this is interesting. The Energy and Natural Resources Ministry recently released an additional 300 megawatt solar quota under NEM Nova. How do you foresee this will boost the solar market? Was it an unexpected announcement, or did the industry players, were they expecting it?
Definitely, it's not an expected announcement. When we look at the government this year just announced the NEM 3.0, the offtake period within less than 3 months, the so-called the NEM Nova under the C&I industry have been fully taken up within 3 months period. And with this recent announcement, the additional 300 megawatt definitely is a surprise to the industry, and definitely is encouraged and so-called booster for the industry to go more so-called adopting more solar for the industry players. Yeah.
So for those who are not aware what a NEM Nova is, it's basically a scheme that enables commercial and industrial PV system owners like yourself to sell excess power to the national grid at market price. What stood out to me in that announcement by the Energy Ministry is that no more export of renewable energy to Singapore. This is to allow for more capacity for local players.
Yes.
What is it about that? Because why restrict export? Why not increase more capacity to the market at large? What do you think are the challenges involved in this?
I think the challenges is firstly because on the country per se, we wanted to recognize on the effort on the sustainable energy. So when you export the energy out to like the neighboring nation, for the credit definitely you have to go into the other side. Although the setup is in the Malaysia, but ultimately the consumer, the end consumer, is outside Malaysia. So definitely the credit is go into the neighboring country. But we're looking at the direction or the decision made by the government, primarily also because our country have committed, right, carbon neutral by 2050. It's a move to encourage more local industry or local company to go for clean energy. Yeah.
This, however, for me as a layman, right, it raises a question: why should there be a quota? Why is there limitation in terms of distribution energy to the rooftop model, which is NEM Nova? Is it due to technical or more economical reasons that we are looking at?
At this juncture, the quota that is giving the encouragement for the industry player to adopt. If you're looking at Malaysia industry per se, we still need some booster to have more encourage for people to adopt solar, because the cost of adopting solar is still on the high side. Hence, with the so-called the quota, with the so-called incentive, the program, it will drive more industry or the businesses to adopt solar, and also with the so-called the incentive that we export the energy to the TNB grid, and with the under the NEM program, the adopter will get a credit back, so they can have the saving in terms of not direct monetary per se, but it is an indirect saving under the balance sheet. Yeah.
And what are some of the initiatives or incentives that is needed to boost solar adoption? Let's talk about from the business and commercial side first.
Yeah. Other initiative I would say is like some kind of like the tax relief that under the existing so-called the framework, like the Green Investment Tax Allowance (GITA), which is for the businesses who adopt solar, and the other one is a Green Income Tax Exemption, which is for the service provider to offer the services to the businesses. However, both of these incentives is set to expire by 2030. So under my personally, I feel the government should look into to and extend the so-called the incentive period to a more longer period, so that we can encourage more industry player to go and adopt more clean energy for their businesses.
Right. Okay. So that is from the NEM Nova rooftop model. I want to move into LSS, which is what you mentioned, large-scale solar farm. So I understand that bidding for LSS 5 is expected to be announced sometime next year. What are your expectations? Will Plus Xnergy be part of it?
Yeah, of course, because in the past we also involved in LSS 1, 2, right? And of course, we are not in the 3. LSS 4, we are currently bidding, and we are expecting to target to secure about 100 megawatt of the projects to provide our EPC services. For LSS 5, we are looking into go a bit more beyond to become the project owner. And what we are doing now, we actually start preparing ourselves to search around for the potential either land or the water body. If you may look into the 12 Malaysia plan, the government actually have encouraged people to set up solar farm, right, under the water. I mean the floating solar. So this is something that we are preparing ourselves for the upcoming announcement on the LSS 5.
Well, I do understand the challenges when it comes to LSS is because it's so capital intensive.
Right.
It's a big problem. And also, I think since LSS 4, the bidding is only open to local companies or those who have at least 75% local shareholding. And this limits a lot of smaller players, especially to work with, say, a multinational company that has more funding. How do you see this constraint? Is this something that we need to relook at, or do you think this is actually good for local players?
Definitely, if you look at LSS4, definitely it's good for local player. You look at the quota awarded out, there are so many local players has successfully secured, and you're looking at the so-called the adoption. I would say many of the local players have the capacity to invest into the LSS. yeah, of course, I would say local player definitely is having a better chance.
Okay. Now let's talk about the bidding rates for LSS. It has become quite competitive. It may not be as lucrative as before to get into LSS, and with the challenge of rising raw material prices, we know that coal plants in China is experiencing disruption, driving up prices of PV panels. What are the challenges for local players now when it comes to supply chain and getting into big projects like an LSS?
Yeah, I would say for now, definitely we see the challenges in terms of the raw material prices increase the height globally. It's a global phenomenon, right? Especially because we know that major supplier of the solar components, it come from China. This is the key challenges. But when it comes to LSS5, I would say there's a probably, it is a short-term period on my personal view. And because LSS5 it only full out by next year, and potentially we will see projects start taking up to the ground right in year 2023 or even 2024. So my view is potentially the price will be settled down and it will be a more so-called reasonable price during the time when people start executing LSS5.
So we talk about NEM Nova, LSS. I want to talk about solar energy for residential use for someone like myself. What is the progress there in terms of take-up rate for residential systems?
Yeah, at this juncture, when we start launching the so-called rent-to-own program, which is first in the country that we are offering to this homeowner, right? So far, the response has been promising and it's been positive. Looking at because residential individual who wanted to so-called update on the solar system installed on their home, the main challenges for them is because of the upfront capital. With our rent-to-own model, right, starting from as low as 388 per month, that definitely will give them a much more encourage for them to go on that. And because the difference is they can enjoy the saving up to 90%, and what the homeowner require to top up, it probably is just a small sum, ranging between maybe around about 100 to 100 plus. Yeah.
And this is for the capital, upfront capital.
This is on the monthly rental because they are paying the monthly electricity bill, right? So they have the saving. With that saving, they can use it to contract off on the rental payment to us, right, to enjoy the solar system and to have the system on their roof.
If somebody who wants to use this rent-to-own scheme, what is the duration like, and how easy is it for a house, a residential owner to install it?
The duration we are offering up to 5 years on the rent-to-own model. So after the 5 years, the house owner will get to own the system. In between that, there is no hidden cost to the so-called the homeowner. We cover everything, including the operation and maintenance screening of the systems. So those we are offering to them. Of course, after the 5 year, the homeowner have the option to continue our service to maintaining the system for them, or the homeowner can also do their own maintenance. That pretty much is straightforward, the process.
Okay. And do you think we are incentivizing enough to boost solar adoption in residential homes at the moment?
Good question on this. Definitely is from the incentive per se, it is not there yet. Because when we look at on the tax relief for individual tax relief, there is none for individual who adopt solar. So I would propose if the government may consider to allow to have a tax relief for individual who adopt solar for their home. That will give the industry a boost. If we're looking at the entire ecosystem per se, the potential for home residential in Malaysia, there's a total about 3.2 million house across Malaysia. When we convert this potentially into energy, let's take a simple mathematical calculation. 3.2 million with every home install a 4 kilowatt system. That is potentially to have a 12,800 megawatt of solar system for the home alone, and it will easily achieve the government initiative on the carbon neutral by 2050.
That sounds like a good plan. Okay, I do have a question about the technical aspect of storage, because we know that storage has always been quite a big problem in the solar market. The problem with solar, of course, the sun is quite intermittent, 6 to 7 hours a day. So where are we in terms of technological advancement in the storage sector at the moment? And has it been to a point, has it developed to a point where it's actually cost, it makes sense in terms of cost for storage?
At this juncture, in terms of technology development, if you look at globally, the development is ongoing. In terms of commercial adoption now, we look at the cost is still on fairly high, but that is on at the moment. Same thing also when we look back 10 years ago, people adopting solar, the cost is still high. But today, I would say easily comparing to 10 years ago, the price to adopting solar is much more lower. I would say easily about 20 times comparing to 10 years ago prices. So same thing for the storage. I would say from now, the price is high, but definitely when the adoption, when the thing are more moving more technology advancement, the development, the cost of the adopting of the technology or the material will definitely will drive down. Yeah, that potentially we see going to be another boom for the industry.
And when do you see that happening? Do you have an estimation?
I just take a wild guess, a rough guess. I would say the cycle about maybe it take about between 5 to 10 years cycle.
Okay.
Yeah.
I do want to talk about policy, because Malaysia has set a green policy very early on, I think more than a decade ago, right? But if you take a look at that competitiveness for Malaysia, Malaysia's competitiveness in the solar market. All around the world, we know that companies are looking to reduce their carbon footprint, and this has driven up investments in the RE sector quite quickly. So honing in on ASEAN and Southeast Asia, in terms of installed renewable energy capacity among Southeast Asian countries, Vietnam is taking the lead with 34% share, and this is based on data in 2019, followed by Thailand, Indonesia, and Malaysia. I'm sure you are well aware of what's happening around the region. You mentioned Vietnam earlier. Why is Vietnam taking the lead? What are they doing right here?
Yeah, first thing first is the policy do attract investor, being locally or so-called the foreigner, to participate, right, to develop the solar or green energy in Vietnam, in the country. Secondly, also we're looking at the country because the country, in the past, everyone know the country having some power shortage. This encourage the drive for the country to go more quicker to build and to develop the renewable energy. But back in Malaysia, although at the beginning we look ourselves, yes, we are considered a bit slow, right, at the beginning. But now you look at current year, this year alone, when the government start launching the NEM Nova 3.0, the uptake of the quota, it just repeated within the 3 months period. So I would say people in Malaysia are now start more environmental conscious, and they are driving through more clean energy. Yeah.
Uptake that was in NEM 3.0. What is the breakdown in terms of residential, commercial? If you can share with us, I just want to understand, how much of it is coming from the industrial side and how much of it is coming from residential.
You're looking at the quota for the residential, for the industrial side. The quota is a 500 megawatt, and for the residential, which is 100 megawatt, the uptake for the residential is kind of a bit slow at the moment. Till date is about 15% have been uptake. There's still about 85% available under the quota. So with the hope of the rent to own model, we can see a more quicker uptake by the residential in the industry.
Okay, yeah. So that's residential, but on the commercial business side, there is a surging demand for renewable.
Yes.
Okay, and this kind of leads me back to what we talked about earlier about how companies are really looking into reducing carbon footprint. If you look at the RE100 companies, which are companies that have made a commitment to be 100% renewable, Apple, Google, and these are companies that have begun shifting their production from China to Vietnam. Again, right, when we talk about how do we become competitive, what edge do we have compared to our ASEAN regions, our ASEAN neighbors, sorry. How can Malaysia become a more attractive alternative investment destination for companies that have a big appetite for clean energy?
Yeah, with the open up on more renewable energy, and also under the Trump Malaysia plan, the government target on the carbon neutral. That's mean there'll be a lot of renewable energy technology or adoption in the market, and that's basically give the more advantage to attract all those players to invest into Malaysia. Secondly, also when we look at Malaysia, the infrastructure in Malaysia are more stable comparing to other regions. That will give the so-called the country a better competitive advantage comparing to other regions to attract all those foreign investors to invest in Malaysia who wanted to adopt green energy.
Okay. How do we attract them? How do we win them over for foreign investors? What are they looking at when they look at committing to sustainable energy, but at the same time to make investment sense, to make money sense, to start a production or a manufacturing plant in Malaysia?
Yeah, first thing is the tax incentive that the country are offering to all those investors. Secondly, under the 15, under the Trump Malaysia plan, there is other structure, right, for those like April or this thing. They can come in without having to set up or invest into owning a clean energy system or solar farm. They can buy the credits, right, through the IEC to enjoy the clean energy. So this is one way. The other part is like the stability of the infrastructure in Malaysia, including the power system, as well as on the internet networking system, that give the better advantage. And that is one of the attractive points. And the process by our MITI and MIDA for all those foreigners is friendly and quicker. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Just one final question about, what are you most excited about in terms of solar development in Malaysia? What are you looking forward to for your industry?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the government looking into giving more so-called booster, like for the industry to adopt more, because for now, definitely we still need to rely on the booster from the governments, right, to have more adoption. But then one thing I'm more excited is the encouragement from under the Trump Malaysia plan for adoption of the floating solar, as well as the residential, the industry, which is one of the strategy and target that the government are going to roll out, right, to boost more renewable energy for the industry.
Yeah, all right. Thank you so much, Chee Keong. That was great. Thank you for speaking with me. So much ground to cover. I think in a couple of years' time, or maybe even a year, we can see more developments coming into play, especially in the solar energy sector. So thank you for that. Thank you for the conversation. And best of luck with Plus Xnergy. Thank you for speaking with me, Chee Keong.
Thank you. Yeah. Have a good day.
You too.